Ma'am, it says here you were born January 1st, 1908.
Discharging 500 million volts of electricity to draw her first breath in 2 minutes.
Adaline Bowman was born on a chilly January 1st in 1908. Growing up in San Francisco, she led a typical life filled with the joys and challenges of the early 20th century. She fell in love, married a young engineer, and soon they welcomed a daughter, Fleming. Life seemed perfect until tragedy struck when her husband died in a tragic accident during the construction of the Golden Gate Bridge. Years passed, and one fateful evening in 1937, Adeline's life took an extraordinary turn. While driving through a snowstorm in the countryside, her car skidded off the road and plunged into an icy lake. She was pronounced dead, but moments later, a bolt of lightning struck the lake, miraculously reviving her. From that moment, she ceased to age, her body permanently fixed at 29. As the years went by, Adeline noticed the changes around her while she remained the same. Her daughter grew older, which made their relationship increasingly complex. To protect her secret and avoid unwanted attention, Adeline adopted a life of constant movement, changing her identity every decade. She became a master of evasion, always one step ahead of anyone who might get too curious.
How is that possible? You look like sisters.
You better stop, it'll go straight to my head.
Oh my God, you haven't changed a bit.
Oh, that's very kind.
Adeline's existence was a blend of solitude and fleeting connections. She avoided close relationships, fearing the heartbreak of outliving those she loved. Despite the advancements and changes in the world, she remained disconnected, her only constant being her dog, who she cared for deeply. Her life was a series of quiet observations from the sidelines, watching the world evolve while she stayed the same. Her only confidant was her daughter, Fleming, who aged naturally into an elderly woman. Fleming often expressed concern for her mother's lonely and transient life. Adeline reassured her, even though deep down, she longed for a normal existence.
And that I never came back. The next time we see each other, I'll have a new identity.
Each new decade brought another identity and another farewell, but Adeline continued, driven by the need to protect her secret above all else. One crisp New Year's Eve, Adeline attended a party under her latest alias, hoping to blend into the background as always. However, her plans were disrupted when she caught the eye of Ellis Jones, a charismatic and persistent philanthropist. Despite her initial reluctance, his genuine charm and kind nature drew her in, and they spent the evening talking and laughing. Ellis wasn't like anyone Adeline had met in a long time. His curiosity and warmth were infectious, and she found herself lowering her guard. They started meeting more frequently, sharing dinners, walks in the park, and long conversations that made Adeline feel alive in a way she hadn't for years.
That's the worst joke I've ever heard in my entire life.
Thank you. Gentlemen, the lady has been conquered. Yes!
Despite the joy these moments brought, a nagging fear lingered in her heart. Adeline's internal struggle grew as her feelings for Ellis deepened. She was torn between the desire to experience love and the necessity to protect her secret. Ellis, unaware of her true age, was captivated by her intelligence, grace, and the hint of mystery that surrounded her. He pursued her earnestly, making it increasingly difficult for Adeline to maintain her emotional distance. The bond between them strengthened, and Adeline found herself at a crossroads. She hadn't felt such a connection in decades, and the thought of losing Ellis became unbearable. Yet, she was haunted by the inevitable complications her secret would bring. Adeline's mind was a whirlwind of conflicting emotions, balancing the bliss of the present against the shadows of her past. As their relationship blossomed, Ellis invited Adeline to a weekend getaway at his parents' house. The invitation was both thrilling and terrifying for her. Despite her reservations, she agreed, hoping to find a way to make this new chapter work without revealing the truth. Little did she know, this visit would force her to confront her past in a way she never expected. The drive to Ellis's parents' house was picturesque, with the landscape bathed in the warm colors of autumn. Adeline tried to push aside her anxiety, focusing instead on the beauty around her and the joy of being with Ellis. His enthusiasm was contagious, and for a while, she allowed herself to imagine a future free of secrets. Upon arrival, the welcoming atmosphere of the Jones family home eased some of Adeline's tension. Ellis's mother was kind and hospitable, and his father, William, seemed genuinely happy to meet her. However, the moment William saw Adeline, his expression changed to one of shock and confusion. He quickly masked it, but Adeline sensed his recognition and felt a wave of dread.
This is Jenny.
Hello. It's so nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Dad, this is Adeline.
Jenny, actually.
William's unease grew throughout the evening. He watched Adeline closely, trying to reconcile her appearance with his memories of a woman he had known decades earlier. Adeline felt the weight of his scrutiny and did her best to avoid him without raising Ellis's suspicions. The tension between her desire to fit in and the fear of exposure was palpable.
Did you get it?
The next morning, William confronted Adeline privately, his mind racing with questions. He recalled their brief romance from years ago, and able to understand how she hadn't aged a day. Adeline, realizing she couldn't continue to deceive him, confessed the truth about her condition. William was stunned but promised to keep her secret, though the revelation left him deeply conflicted.
I know who you are, Adeline. The same scar. I stitched it myself.
I was normal. I don't know.
And then one day, I just stopped.
Don't disappear again, please. For Ellis.
I don't know how.
Don't run away, Adeline.
Ellis noticed the growing tension between his father and Adeline but couldn't fathom the cause. He demanded an explanation, forcing Adeline into an impossible position. Torn between her love for Ellis and the need to protect herself, she decided to leave, hoping to spare them both more pain. The decision broke her heart, but she knew it was the only way to keep her secret safe and prevent further complications. Adeline hurriedly packed her bags, her mind racing with conflicting emotions. Leaving Ellis was one of the hardest decisions she had ever made, but she was convinced it was the only way to protect her secret. As she drove away from the Jones family home, tears blurred her vision, each mile feeling like a lifetime of regret and sorrow. As night fell, Adeline's thoughts were consumed by the memories of her time with Ellis and the hope she had briefly allowed herself to feel. Distracted and overwhelmed, she didn't notice the car speeding through the intersection until it was too late. The crash was sudden and violent, throwing Adeline into unconsciousness. When she awoke, she found herself in a hospital, her body battered but miraculously alive. Ellis, having followed her, arrived at the hospital, his face etched with worrying and confusion. Adeline realized she could no longer run from her past or her feelings. The accident had stripped away her defenses, and she was left with no choice but to face the truth. As she lay in the hospital bed, she knew it was time to tell Ellis everything, regardless of the consequences. In the quiet of her hospital room, Adeline recounted her incredible story to Ellis, explaining the lightning strike, her ageless existence, and the countless lives she had led in secrecy. Ellis listened in stunned silence, struggling to comprehend the reality of her words. Despite the initial shock, his love for Adeline remained unwavering. He promised to stand by her, no matter what. With Ellis's support, Adeline felt a newfound sense of hope and relief. She realized that she no longer had to live in fear and isolation. The accident had not only revealed her secret but had also given her the chance to start anew, free from the burdens of her past. For the first time in decades, Adeline looked forward to a future where she could truly live and love without the shadow of her secret hanging over her. As Adeline recovered, she and Ellis grew even closer, their bond strengthened by the trials they had faced. The hospital stay gave them ample time to talk about the future, and burdened by secrets. Adeline shared stories of her past lives, and Ellis listened with a mix of fascination and empathy. For the first time, Adeline felt truly understood and accepted. The changes in Adeline's life were profound. She no longer needed to fabricate stories about her past or worrying about her secret being exposed. With Ellis by her side, she embraced new experiences and opportunities. Together, they explored places she had once avoided for fear of recognition, and Adeline found joy in rediscovering the world with a partner who knew and loved her entirely. As time passed, Adeline noticed subtle signs of aging gray hairs, laugh lines, and the gradual changes she had yearned for. These signs, once feared, were now celebrated milestones. They marked the beginning of a normal life, one where she could grow old alongside Ellis. For Adeline, the promise of growing older was not a burden but a gift, a testament to the life and love she had finally allowed herself to embrace.